Welcome. This is Map Marketing and I am your host, Rachel Klaver. I love helping small business owners become more confident and more capable with their marketing. So this podcast is all here to help you do just that. It's me and the help of some great guests helping you learn new skills, new strategies and ideas. Let's jump in and get started. I'm getting older. I had a birthday this week. Aren't we all? Anyway, I often get super frustrated when trying to find clothing and skincare that's targeted to me, but uses younger faces and bodies. I want to see things on my age of skin or my type of body. And I first heard about our guest today, Gemma and her range Conviction, which does just that. It shows people my age with her product, but it wasn't always that way. I've been influenced before buying products on the internet, especially Instagram and TikTok. Those are my favorite places to buy. And I saw her product with an influencer who was sharing it because she had bought it and tried it and then contacted Gemma to talk about the facts she wanted to share with it. Using micro-influencers such as Emma has helped Gemma promote her range in a way that feels organic and real and relevant. She initially started with an agency who offered big name and big following influencers, and they provided great traffic to her website and beautiful, sharp content, but they often didn't result in sales because they weren't the target market Gemma believed she'd really created her product for. Women over 40 needing a skincare that was easy to use, felt good, and gave her results. And I've got to be honest, that's how I have found the product. I adore it. Her ads often use her own face and tell her own story, or the faces of her own customers with their stories about how it's impacted their life. And she's building a range of engaged fans who help her sell her product with their own delight in the results. Today in this podcast, we talk to Gemma about how she came to create a skincare range. It wasn't in her life plan, and what she's learned about it and what's up for her next. I do love this product, but I also really love Gemma's story, and I hope you fall in love with it as much as I do. If you'd like to talk about this podcast, or if you'd just like to ask questions about marketing yourself, do come and be part of the Map It Marketing group on Facebook. The link is in the show notes, or you can just Google it or search for it on Facebook. And I would love it if you checked out my book, Be a Spider, Build a Web, about how to create an effective content marketing strategy that's meaningful, authentic, and makes you feel good about doing your marketing. It's on all online platforms, mainly booksellers, and you also have got a link in the show notes for that too. Right, with no further ado, let's go start talk to Gemma. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Map It Marketing. If this is your first time listening and you love the podcast, please do remember to hit subscribe. For those of you that are returning visitors, thank you so much for listening to the show. I really appreciate it. And also thank you for those of you that do rate and review the podcast, especially if you love it. Just a reminder, if you hate it, you're very welcome just to pretend we never had this moment before and we can just let it go. You don't have to say anything. Okay, so without further ado, I'm really excited to have our guest Gemma on the podcast today because I use her product. I became a fan. I actually was influenced by one of her people that she uses. And then since then, I did a little TikTok video and managed to influence other people to buy it as well. It is a product I adore, but I also love the story. And I love talking to small business owners in New Zealand who really do go with something that they love and adore, have a great story behind it, and then put their all into it, which is what Gemma has done. So welcome to the show, Gemma.
Hello, thank you.
It's lovely to have you. Now, I thought I'm just going to let you rip for a bit and just talk a little bit about how Conviction started and kind of what's happening with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, thanks for having me. Probably going to be the highlight of my Friday. So
we're going to load that. Only 10 a.m. Who knows what happens?
I'm caffeined up and I'm ready to go.
Perfect.
So Conviction, yeah. So I guess if I go back a little bit, if I can, story started for me when I was probably in a bit of a bad place in my life. Turns out it was one of those places where you learn and grow and have ideas, like many of us have experienced. So I was living down on the Kapiti Coast, which is near Wellington in New Zealand. And I had recently separated from my ex-husband, and I had also recently had a miscarriage, and everything was just pretty shite, to be honest. Yeah. And I guess I got fed up with myself. I got fed up. I was living in a, you know, a cool little town in a nice house that I owned, and I felt sort of empowered by that. But I was pretty lonely, and I just got fed up with my own sort of attitude to everything, and not being sort of grateful, and not knowing how to really find that kind of badass side that I always had relied on to motivate me to the next stage of my life. And so I guess, long story short, I went on a journey of, it was sort of inside, outside, internal, external. I was already quite devoted to sort of health and good eating, and I was always had been kind of an exerciser, but I just really kind of leveled up, I guess, in that space. And I did spent a lot of time, I had a lot of time living on my own to do research in terms of, you know, what I was putting onto my body topically. Was also working with an amazing woman who, you know, she was a naturopath, but she's a clinical and holistic
nice. I like
medicine.
that science,
amazing.
That Eastern kind of blend is always good.
She looks at the whole person, the whole world, and then grabs at the best combination of things for you. And that really resonated with me. And so I worked with her and got her advice as well. I'm an artist, so I was doing lots of painting, and there was red wine in the garage, and all of that combined.
Perfect.
I guess
I actually healed my heart through painting. I am not telling. No, I don't show people my painting, but I would do a canvas and paint it, and then I'd go through that healing journey, and then I'd repaint over it with the next chapter, and I just kind of like did this kind of
wow, that's brave.
And I could feel it moving. It was kind of just before my husband actually, I could really feel it changing and moving. So I love the painting for healing. I think it's important.
It is, yeah. Well, that's what the whole artist therapy is kind of, so true. So yeah, so I guess all of that, I was doing a new level of mindfulness, and I was, you know, I got to the point where I was even toying with what were my beliefs, and you know, I did a little bit of research into Buddhism and all of this sort of stuff. And I'm actually very cherry pick when it comes to that stuff. But it's
okay, like even if you were, I'm sure would forgive you. But I do think that those moments of when you're having to refine who you are and reconnect and heal at the same time is the time that we go and seek out all the different ways. And I think what you did was really great, because you didn't go, this is my one direction, I'm just going to go and be a monk somewhere in Thailand, or I'm just going to become an artist, or I'm just going to become an alcoholic, or I'm just going to become a scary organic person who never touches anything. You kind of blended a whole lot of stuff.
Absolutely. And that's so, you've hit the nail on the head, because even when I talk to people about conviction and they're like, oh, it's, you know, it's purist and organic, and does that mean I can't use this and I can't do that? And I always just say, no, you curate your life the way it makes sense and has most benefit to you. I'm not anti-Botox, I'm not anti-makeup. You know, if you've got a moisturizer with something synthetic in it that you want to use because it works for you, bloody go ahead and put conviction in there. I do encourage organic for scientific reasons, and I encourage simplicity. Over time, if you can just make your life simpler, then that benefits you mentally as well as, you know, in your pocket as well. But I am not anti anything. And I think actually what people struggle with the most across lots of realms of their life is finding balance across things. It's much easier, as you say, to go straight hard out down one rabbit hole on a crash diet, or, you know, I'm completely clean beauty and I'm not doing anything else and I'm spending thousands. You know, that's actually easier because you're just lasered in.
Moderation is actually the hardest road to walk.
Absolutely. And I guess when I have conversations with people about things like, as you say, religion or beliefs, they want to try and put me in a box, and they're like, oh, so you're kind of more Buddhist. And I'm like, no, I take from there and I draw from here, and my mother is Christian, and I have, you know, like I can relate to different parts. And do you know what? I'm allowed to curate my beliefs in that manner as well, and so can everybody. You know?
So I know we haven't talked about conviction. I want to in a minute, but it was really interesting. I had a coaching session with my group yesterday, and we're there's men and women in that group, but it just happened to be all of us 40 plus women in the group that yesterday. And one of them was talking about, and I hate this word, but I did love what she said. She has a business where she does a primal health product, this amazing capsules.
Wow.
But she said this is the age of the crone. And now I hate the word the crone, because crone is a horrible word to me. But what she's saying is it's for women who have gone in the 40 plus stage, who are in perimenopause or menopause plus, who have all that wisdom, and for years we were sidelined and put to the side and never put in a place where we were allowed to speak up. You know, if we had grey hair, I've got grey hair, grey hair don't care. You know, if we had that and we were in a professional setting, we were immediately discredited as not having value, whereas grey-headed men were considered wise.
Yes.
And that's shifting.
Yep, absolutely.
But we don't have to look ancient while we're doing it.
No, that's it.
And I think that's the magic.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I always I have conversations recently with other, peers and friends that I have, and it's sort of like we came out of a generation of people pleasing. It was a generation, and especially women. Like, we've come out of this generation of, and so we're looking at these younger generations. As much as I think there's a lot that they can learn, and a lot that's quite scary, they have this aloof confidence that they don't need to people please everything.
My daughters have it.
That, and I'm trying to grab at it. I love
this. Pisses me off a bit as well, but only because of my daughters, and they, and they're like, and they say things like, I remember being at a conference and I was freaking out because I just wanted to wear sneakers because I was going to be running around all day, but I was like, if I wear sneakers, I'm going to have to shave my legs, and I'm running out of time. And my 16-year-old at the time daughter said to me, "Fuck the patriarchy, wear unshaved legs, you're fine." And I was like, damn, I need to have that confidence in my life.
Absolutely. I remember spending years and years, and especially I started out my career as a hairdresser, believe it or not, and I spent 3 years sweeping hair off the ground and just trying to please everybody. And I think because I was very young into an environment where I was working with adults and clients that were a lot older than me, and I was a senior hairdresser quite quickly, I curated and adapted to every new person that I met, to the point where it worked really well. They used to come back to me and I was like their counselor, but I was exhausted.
Yeah.
I was so tired. I didn't know who I was. I was kind of like, this is so painful to try and adapt to every new person and their needs, Because
I know, like, one of the things I said about your product, which we are going to talk about soon, the conviction oil, which is amazing, is I shared it on my TikTok, and I haven't shared this on my podcast yet, but as you know, it's a weight loss one because I had weight loss surgery a few weeks ago, and I haven't told anyone about this publicly, but part of the reason I decided to have weight loss surgery was I've been thinking about it for 6 years, and I had been talking to my husband about a whole lot of other people in my life who are having it quite a lot in February, and we were out for dinner or lunch, and he said, "Do you want to have it?" And this was my true response: I don't want to put anybody out.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't realize until I said that my people pleasing, which I thought I had healed so much, actually was so around, I want this so much for myself, but I'm terrified of how it's going to negatively impact everyone else around me, because they will also have to change. And I didn't want to
do you mean as in being judged for doing
No, I didn't care about anyone judging me, because I've got a really supportive family and friend network, but it was more just this whole idea that, I would give up coffee, which was one of the things that my husband and I do a lot together, that I would changing the way I eat, which would affect the way we went out for dinner, that it would probably change the things we ate as a family, and that would impact my family, or I would have to take time off work, and that was going to impact us because we have a family business. And I had all this stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh. And he just looked at me and was like, that's the worst. That's the worst reason ever. And he said, do you want to do it? I went, yeah. And he goes, let's do it. And I was all on then. And I think that people pleasing in our generation, it shows itself in so many different ways.
Yeah,
but
it does.
And I see it, and you would see it in the clients you work with who are our age, and women, where they don't want to put themselves out there or put themselves first or take risks, even for this business they really believe in, because they're so scared that they might come across in a way that might not fit everybody that's listening to them.
Oh, 100%. And I think there's also, and I do think it's a little bit generational, that there's words that spring to mind like vanity.
Yes.
If you spend too much time in the, when we were younger, and my mum's here, and she's amazing, and she's like love her to absolute bits, but she was from a generation too. And I remember as, there's 3 girls in our family, and it was like, come on, you're being a bit vain, or you're hung up about your nose or something like that. And it was all vanity. It was quite a negative thing. And then it's the same, it's the same in terms of going after what you want business wise. Like, are you getting a bit cocky? I remember starting out in marketing, and
marketing is the worst for
and
it.
They would say, oh, Gemma, have you got any ideas? And I'd always speak up and be excited. And they're like, okay, you're being a bit cocky. And these words that stick with you.
And they didn't say it to men. I think that's the other thing. They only say it to, and I know we're sounding very feminist here, but I do think that that this is a thing in our generation.
It is. I think so too. And I think that's why I love the chance, and I wish I sort of had harnessed it sooner, as we all do, but to get to this point, and conviction has been such a pillar in the sand of a moment in time when I went, do you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to retrofit my life and my learnings with everything that I'm going to grab from these younger generations that I needed.
It is an amazing way to do it, because actually you kind of have to put on the mantle of that younger generation who don't have that barrier, because I do think a lot of the splashback we get from the 20-somethings and the early 30s group of women, there is a kind of a splashback, but part of it's an envy. Like part of it say how dare they go and do that behavior, but it's actually like why can't I be doing that behavior, and why are they getting to do that when I didn't do it?
Yes, yeah. It's funny when I think about even marketing, just really quickly, like we came out of a marketing generalist time where, these days it's like, oh, you're a digital specialist or a digital native, or you're just basically almost a TikTok marketer. And yet the generalists got, for a time, I think it's definitely coming back into vogue, because we got pushed to the side because we were just like these
I know it's hard, because I'm a generalist too. It's really hard because if people are like, I'm an Instagram specialist. I'm like, well, I kind of do everything.
Well, and the thing is that I'm seeing now, and talk about talent shortage across the board, but especially in marketing in New Zealand, is there's not enough marketers coming through who can take a holistic view of a business and actually make marketing decisions based on the fact that they get what's happening across the whole business. And I think that's similar to what we talk about. We can drag and have a bit of envy about some of the traits and emotional qualities and the confidence that these younger people have got. But what they don't have is the ability to have more of this holistic life wisdom. And I think that's where people like you and me can go, okay, how can we teach and advise and build businesses that actually center on that, because
and I absolutely adore that. Now, all that stuff is that part. Let's talk about conviction for a minute, because obviously, like, I know what it is and you know what it is, and everyone's like, what is it? I can tell it's something that Rachel's put on her face, but what is it? Let's talk about that, because I want to talk then about that blend of that experience and your product and how that's helped. But what is conviction? Like, for you at the moment, what is it?
Yes. Well, look, on the face of it, what I'm selling is it's a beauty oil. It's amazing, as you have experienced. It's amazing.
It's organic, beautiful. Yeah.
Hair oil. But then at the heart of the brand is everything I've just described. It's basically a tool to do life with conviction. It's a tool to get out there and have your lust for life and not apologize to anybody, and not, be judged or not care about judgment. And so if I can put into the world a product or products in time that supply people with a toolkit of support to live a life with conviction as much as possible, then I feel like that's my purpose. That's what gets me out of bed and spins my wheels and provides a reminder for me to live my own life with conviction and not apologize all the time for success or failure or whatever. So that's the heart of the brand, I guess, is that it's and I guess wrapped around that is that I wanted it to be a disruptor in a market of beautiful luxury and organic greenery and fresh and all these other cool realms, and there's some amazing products out there that, even in the organic space. but there was nothing that spoke to me from an edgy, gritty, you get the hell out there, woman or man, and you take what's yours and you go after it and you do it with conviction, because otherwise what's the point?
And the pack, like, you know, because I've ordered it, and I was thinking probably my only bone to pick with you would be that the boxing and stuff is so beautiful. I am never throwing it away. Like, that's like what am I going to do with it? I noticed it today. I put it over my drawer. It's empty, like, because the box is up, the bottle's on my dressing table. I was like, I can't throw it away. It's too beautiful, the box. But like, I do think that is one of the things that you just did so supremely beautifully, because the bottle's gorgeous. It has the little knife, like around a little tag, and then it has this beautiful box and packaging. And when you buy it, you feel like you've had this big yes moment where you're just like, I have bought this most beautiful thing to indulge myself. I am worth having that. And I think that's what you're doing, right? You're trying to say, hey, I'm passing along a little bit of my conviction about how good I feel at this point in my life stage. And here is this little gift to you for you to feel that way and carry that through. That's kind of what you're trying to do.
100%. Yeah, that's an amazing way to describe it. And I guess when I was in the early days of pulling what it would look like in the bottle and in the bathroom together, you know, and I would get up and, you know, I've become over time, I didn't used to be a very simple person when it comes to getting ready and all of that. And just to have this bottle in my bathroom, if I got out of bed and did my morning routine and just felt a little bit average, like, it was almost a symbol of reminder that, you know, meet yourself where you are, put on your conviction. I'm staring at this little knife. And the knife says to me, get out there, woman, like, come on, you've got this. Or, you know, go, just start into the day and meet yourself. And it's not going to be perfect, but actually there'll be a moment where you come over the hump and there's sun and you feel better for another moment.
There's a Mumford & Sons song, which I think is called After the Rain. And there's like, there will come a time when you will see, I can't remember the words, but it's like, basically you've got over the hill and you can see after all that drudge and rain, this beautiful thing in front of you. And I remember going through a crisis about 4 or 5 years ago, and I just listened to that every day on the work and just cry. And then suddenly about 6 months later, I got to that top of the hill and went, and so it's always stuck. And that's what that is that kind of like, no matter what's going through, you know, and it's weird, you know, people go, well, why would a facial oil do that? But I think for me, ritual is really lost for us, but so we need it in our lives, but we don't have a lot of time for like 45-minute meditation sessions. So having a ritual of a facial oil that you're dropping onto the palm of your hand and then putting onto your skin and taking in, it's just time to slowly breathe and connect with your body.
And 100%. You know, there's a couple of mums in Australia who you know, they bought both, and they've got a morning and an evening with the Rebel Gold and the Queen Bee now. And
that's a good idea, actually. I might do that, because I just use the Rebel Gold, but that's actually a good idea.
Yeah, well, we sort of the perfect picture, and I guess you know, we kept the hero ingredients on their own stages because of the active nutrients and all of that. So she does that morning and night. And she's got 2 kids and a full-time job, and she said, my life is chaos. Like, half the time I just look like chaos. But she said, you know what I do when I walk into that bathroom at night and I drop the beautiful drops out, everything slows down, and I literally treat myself like a queen as I rub it in.
That's so nice. I love that.
I'm like, oh my God, can you send me a video of that? I just love it, the whole idea of it. Just for those like couple of minutes in my evening, I just go, you know, you're amazing. Like,
because I do think that there is that, you know, and one of the things I found quite fascinating is your product, you will continue to sell it direct. You're not planning to retail it like in stores?
Yeah, well, look, funny you should ask that. I tried to at the beginning, and I had some really good advisors, sort of established businessmen, who said, look, you know, do e-commerce, but make sure you get a big retailer on board, because then it's going to be great for cash flow. And I was like, okay.
Always great for cash flow.
As well as doing everything to set up the e-commerce, I was grafting with, you know, Smith & Co.'s and farmers, and actually they were both really interested in the brand and all of that. But man, it's hard work, and they don't care about you. And hoop after hoop after hoop after hoop, and so much of my time and energy. And I got to the point where I was like, do you know what? I don't need you. And there'll come a time when you come to me and ask me to have the brand in store.
There will be that
time.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I also didn't really feel like from a brand values perspective it was necessarily a fit.
No.
The other thing that selling direct has taught me, which I would never have gotten if I'd had a massive order from a retailer straight off the bat, is learning about how people interact with the brand and the product. Like, people kind of message me and go, oh, hey, hope you and the team are well. And I'm like, oh, this is the team.
I'm the team. I'm this
everything.
person, I'm everybody. Yeah.
And so I'm the one like pulling over, driving to Tauranga the other day with my son in the back to pull over and answer the live chat on the website.
Sounds familiar.
Because it's me.
Sounds familiar. Yeah.
But what I've learned, like learning about people's skin issues and problems, and the woman saying, I don't really want to look in the mirror right now. And then I'm right there listening and learning and, shaping the brand off the back of that first-hand contact is like gold. Like I just, and there was parts of the business early on, which I did some e-commerce training, and the guy said to me, you're going to have to do all of this. And I said, I can't. I don't have time. I'm not that technical. I'm going to farm these bits out to people. And he goes, do not do that. You can farm them out once you've learned how to do them yourself.
Yes, that is such good advice. I have the exact same advice. And you would probably for many people when they're look at their marketing as well, right?
Yeah.
You have to understand it.
Yeah. 100%. It's like back to the hairdressing analogy. My trainer said to me, seeing all these crazy cuts that were being done by my senior counterparts, and I said, I'm creative, why can't I break out and do these crazy cuts? And she goes, because until you learn the rules of hair cutting, you cannot break them. You can only break them.
True. And I do think that there is this real push where we want to run before we walk, and in business, it is so important to do that drudge. I see so many small business owners going, I'm launching my business. Can someone take over my socials? And I'm like, you don't have a voice yet. People don't know you. People don't know the words. Like the book, that I've written, someone said the other day, it's weird because I've listened to your voice on so many webinars and I've, been on lives with you. And I feel like you're just talking to me when I read this. And it's that voice, recognizing the brand voice. And you've done that really well because you've implemented parts of your own story. You use candid photos in your advertising, which is great because they're not, I'm really into using candid photos on Facebook advertising because you slow the scroll. They're not like this polished photo of you in a studio.
100%. Yeah. It feels weird to start with. And you go,
yes. And my daughter does works for us and does Facebook ads. She's fantastic about it. And that was her most heartbreaking thing about Facebook ads because she does these beautiful designs with animation. And we always make her test them with an ugly ad. Not that your ads are ugly, but
it's ugly pretty, right?
It's ugly pretty. And she's always like, damn it, the ugly pretty one's doing way better than my beautiful ad. But it is because we have this real desire to connect with something that's real. And if you've got an organic product, your marketing needs to feel organic too.
100%. And I think people are, you'd get the whole digital clutter thing, the apathy and the
so easy.
It's rife. And it's just, as you say, people are craving and crying out for something that's real and authentic. And I think even the least knowledge person in marketing can the level of cynicism around something totally slick and engineered, most of us can see through that straight away.
And it's interesting because and I don't mean slick in a bad way here, your packaging and your brand is actually slick. But so it's interesting because it becomes a happy surprise because you feel like you've had like a personable or, quite an organic relational kind of conversion, even with influencers, we'll talk about it in a minute, to your product. But then when it arrives, it's luxe and it's slick and at high quality. So you get kind of like this double whammy of I have to get it again to get that experience. But the initial, you're tricking people. You're tricking people with your kindness.
Well, I just I'm personally a dichotomy. I think life can be a dichotomy, and that's a really good point that you raised because I actually had a conversation yesterday with a guy in Sydney who runs a user-generated content agency.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of, trying to work out whether they might be able to create some content for me. And I was very much like, I don't want this whole paid influencer thing with ad on it. I don't want that. I also have been using like super candid, like customer photos and really raw stuff, like it's pretty raw, which I absolutely love. But how do you get that beautiful alignment between this is the brand aesthetic, and there is a beauty and a slickness to it, as you say, and how do we marry that up with the authentic raw stuff so that it all kind of weaves in really nicely, but it makes total sense to people, you know? But I think also that kind of cut through in the real world where, as you say, oh, it's a familiar, approachable brand, but now I've got this package in my hand, and that's kind of leveled me up even more. You know, I love it even more because it's this blend of something that's blindsided me a little bit.
I think that's where it works. I actually think because one of the things that people get stuck on often on Facebook ads, which you would know, is that we can't do before and afters. The minute you do before and afters, your account gets banned.
I know.
And so what you're doing by using real life people, and using those testimonies, you're doing that powerful end user testimony, so people trust it more. But you've got photos of them, like actual real people that aren't just like in a studio with this perfect makeup and perfect hair. And some of them have very like no makeup on at all. Most of them have no makeup on all, and they're showing their skin close up, which is quite fascinating, you know.
Absolutely. And I think when you start out in business and you create a brand, there's an element of remaining true to your gut and your original purpose, but also where it can grow and where there's opportunity, choosing carefully where you're going to lean into stuff that actually is a surprise to you. So for me, you know, we launched, and actually I was working with an agency, and they kind of went, oh my God, this brand's going to resonate with such a young market. And I was kind of like, oh, yeah, it will, because it's kind of cool. But to be honest, the meaning and the story and the price point and all of that actually lends itself to maybe a slightly older market. So what I've learned so far is that there are 85-year-olds who are messaging me going, oh, I love this conviction stuff, and my skin feels, my husband's saying I look great, and the little knife makes me feel so cool. I'm like, oh my God, you're 85, I love you.
Honestly, no, my mum wears leather pants. She doesn't know who she's 78. She is like the coolest. She's the coolest grandma out. She was a hippie, and I was raised with a mother who didn't ever wear makeup. So I had to like go and get makeup training, like at a makeup school, because I didn't know how to use it.
Wow.
Like, totally. And you're like, I would totally buy, in fact, I think I will, for her birthday, I would buy that, because for years, all she's ever done is put like moisturizer on her face, and she has amazing skin, but she would love the oil. And I do think, like, you know, when you look at like the ideal market, when you look at disposable income and you look at things like that, 40 plus is such an ignored market.
It is,
you know? And especially for luxury brands, and even when the 40 plus is the market, so often businesses will use a 25-year-old to market to a 40 plus market.
Oh, I've had women who have messaged me off the back of a Facebook ad and said to me, I'm about to purchase for one reason only, that you're the only brand I've seen in a very long time that's not afraid to use a grey-haired woman in your ads. And I'm just so happy, and it's such a good day for me that I'm going to buy your product regardless of how
amazing though, right?
Oh, wow.
But isn't it also kind of sad? Like, I know, you know, as someone who is, you know, had been plus size for a lot of her life, you know, it's a big thing. I shouldn't post this out loud, but like City Chic is known for using size 12 models when, you know, and like lots of brands, and it's like, but your brand is plus size, and so it's like this thing of like actually using people who are your target market should not be a revolutionary concept, and yet it is.
And that's the thing. And I guess, I don't know, when I think back to having to learning stuff even at uni about marketing, and it was sort of like, oh no, that's justified because it's aspirational. And I'm like, how is it aspirational for a 50-year-old woman to think that in reality she's ever going to look 20 again? Like,
we don't.
She's not stupid.
No. You know, we think we look young until we compare it to our 20-year-old face and realize we're not so young. But you're right. You know, our faces do change, and they alter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I just, you know, I also love the beauty of kind of imperfection. Like every time I attempt to do a video, and I'm not very good at it, I need to buy those special lights and whatever that's meant to sit over your head. Have you got one of those?
I don't even have many of them on, but I will tell you that my big one that I've got over here, I have like that, and I put, like, if I'm doing filming, if I've got 3 lights on, it does make such a big difference.
Yeah, and so I've got all of that to learn, and I guess I also laugh at myself because people are like, oh, we want to see you more, and we want to see, and so I try to do the stuff, and I'm staring at myself going, oh my God, you're going to be selling beauty oil on this thing. Look at your eyes are droopy. This is hereditary for me. And then I've got last night's bags under there. I'm like, do you know what? This is part of your conviction. You need to be in these videos. And even if you make note of it in the intro, oh, look at my funny eyes and look at this. Like, these are my things. These are my hang-ups that I meet with myself every time I look in the mirror. But the whole package, I'm like, do you know what? Yeah, woman, you look bloody good. Come on, let's go.
I'm just going to just reassure you that never once during this, we're filming this as video, I had never noticed your droopy eyes.
You will now though, won't you?
Yeah, well, now you're drawing attention. I'm just going to look at them the whole. I will say, I read this really cool book by Robin Holden, and it was a book, I think it's called, I can't remember what it's called, but Lovability. And there's like this thing you're meant to do in it where you're meant to stand in front of a mirror and say, I love you to yourself for a full minute. Yep. So I put the timer on. 15 seconds in, I went, oh Lord, one of my eyebrows is higher than the other. And I had to go to this movie premiere like that night, and I could hardly walk in the room. And I think I mentioned it to about 7 people. Like, and someone said, oh, you can cure that with Botox. And I'm just like, maybe I need to have Botox to fix my eyebrow, And I realized my face wasn't 100% symmetrical. And I was like, I don't know if that was what I was meant to discover. But
I know. It's crazy. And I was trying to get inspiration from a lot of other women who have done like this, the Dose & Co lady, and I'm like, these are all like perfectly symmetrical faced women who have decided to go and sell something in the beauty space. What the hell was I thinking? Like, what?
You are beautiful. You're beautiful. We do see our own imperfections, and we don't see them in other people. We're our biggest critics.
100%. And so, I guess just thinking about conviction back to the product and going through my teams, and again, a generation that didn't have a lot of knowledge around acne and blemishes, and I guess that's the whole skin thing. Like, if you're a teenager with acne, especially a girl, it is debilitating.
It's really
and you've got years of it. Of it. And back when we were teenagers, it was awful contraceptive pills or synthetic pills to try and balance your skin, which
Roaccutane.
Roaccutane and hormones in your 20s, and you never quite get it right. And I just think back to, even subconsciously, how much of my confidence was knocked in those years and the choices that I made because of that. And if I can create a product set that helps mums and their daughters and sons, skin is confidence. Good skin equals confidence.
It's weird because, there's a part of me that's like, hey, I could be confident without. But we talked about this a little bit before the show as well. And I talked about, moving from being plus size to not, and seeing how easy it is to kind of walk into a room. And I talked a bit about my social anxiety when I was going to lots of PR things as a plus size person and how hard that was. And I think that, we say that it is not the only thing, but I think what happens is when you can be confident without great skin or without whatever the issue is, or with a weird face. I have a saying, you've never killed a man with your face. So all faces are beautiful to me, but I think that what happens is, if you don't have if your skin is good and things like that, you're not having to sheathe yourself in an armor before you walk in and steel yourself and prepare yourself. There's not as much energy expended. Totally. And I think that's what I'm learning as I go through this journey myself, is that it's an easing of the energy that you have to carry with you all the time to be as a shield or a cloak around you to help you walk through
100%. And I think you're absolutely right, and I agree with you that you can find confidence however you look. That's 100% what I believe. But when your skin isn't right, it actually signals something else in terms of what's going on with your body.
Yeah, definitely.
Fixed. And also, at the end of the day, you know what, life is just bloody hard sometimes. And, you know, why should you have to grapple with something else that, you know,
very,
people
very
can
true.
help solve for you, that then it's just another thing you don't have to worry about, and you can get back to focusing on other stuff, you know. I just think
so one of the things we talked about in the before we started was we talked about how you have used user generated content of real fans, but initially did you start with like proper influencers, like, you know, like influencers?
Yeah, like the real deal. And so that, even in my whole 17 years of marketing, it's not a space that I've played in at all. So it was all very new to me, and I put sort of my trust in the agency I was using. And yeah, it was a very robust. We had about 12 influencers. Most of them were pretty young, so that probably wasn't quite right. And yeah, look, it drove a lot of traffic. I would say that there was lots of traffic, and kind of on a, I don't want to be mean, but sort of vanity metrics around engagement and comments.
It made you feel like you got the what's the word, endorphin boost or dopamine boost of
it was kind of like, look at absolutely,
but not as many sales.
No, not people converting. And I think my challenge for that space, and I think, you know, it is becoming a bit of a thing that's being challenged, is the true influencer, paid influencer space. It's actually a little bit incestuous, to be honest, in that, you know, I would have one influencer put up a post and there'd be lots of engagement and traffic, and I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting, not a lot of sales, I'll dive into this a bit more. And it's all of the other influencers just loving and liking, and they all go around in a group and they all kind of do the same thing, and I'm like, these aren't potential customers, these are just other influencers. So, I think, look, is there a place for it? Yes, I think there is, because especially in that younger market, the whole, this is an ad, if it's done right, I don't think some people worry about that. I think user generated content is where it's at, where, you know, you're actually asking someone to try and like and potentially love your product. Payment changing hands, whatever, work that out later, or, you know, but that I love your product, it's part of my life now, and therefore let's do a partnership because we can help each other. For me, that's where it's at for conviction.
Because I know that, and I said this to you before, that I eventually bought it initially because I saw Emma Johns using it, because I follow her. She's a stylist, and she's recently also been going through a battle with cancer. So she talked about how cancer had impacted her skin and having this oil on. And that was my first initial thing around it. And then I got retargeted with your ads, so I went to your website. But one of the reasons I like that was that if Emma says, like, Emma's influenced me before, like, and not always directly, like once she did a must-have for a white linen shirt, didn't look at any of hers, but then went and bought another one, you know, because I was like, actually, I need that white linen shirt. I feel like with someone like her, when she talks about something, I know that she will only talk about things that she actually uses or loves, or she's got an emotional connection to. And so I do think that is one of the hardest things around this with brands, is that we want to find someone who's got great reach. Like, not always, you don't always have to have a huge audience to be a great influencer if your audience is super, super engaged.
Absolutely. Like, I think there's micro, they call them, with, you know, like maybe 1,000 followers, but the 1,000 followers are just so in there and, you know, really engaged and commenting and things. I think absolutely it is really a case of weeding out and doing your research, I think, on who fits your brand, who fits your values, who's willing to try or take your product without any maybe payment changing hands to start with. You know, that's where I would be probably encouraging other small businesses getting started to, you know, not just go, let's do influencer strategy. Okay, let's go and choose from a panel of people and pay them $500 each to do a post. Because you know what? It's a flash in the pan. It's very expensive. And I don't think you'll get conversions out of it.
Yeah, because I've been doing, because my book self-published, I've always had a penguin behind me, and they, you know, even though I thought they weren't doing anything at the time, I've realized they were doing quite a lot. And so I've done this one this time, and for this one, that's kind of what I've been using, that same philosophy. I went and found people that I just like, that I know like me as well, and don't have massive followings, but have an engaged following, and said, do you want a copy of the book? And they're kind of getting ready now to review it and really happy to share it. And to me, that means a lot more than having like a really big person do it, because I know that they'll have engaged audiences that can do it.
Yeah,
and I remember having a post with Matilda Green, who, you know, I love her. She's so lovely.
Yeah, she's cool, and like no makeup ever. I just
no,
like that
and
woman is.
Yeah, she just uses an oil. I think she's a beautiful skin.
Phenomenal.
But she was promoting something else, which I won't mention, on one of her posts, and I commented, I love it too. I've been using it, and about 7 people that followed me went, well, if you use it, I'm buying it. I'm thinking, well, that's kind of weird, because it's actually Matilda Green's post, but it just shows, you know, like actually it is around that who you know.
Yeah,
that does make a difference.
Yeah, and I think there's another you know, on the whole influencer space trends, where it's going is those true partnerships that you just described. Like, for example, with Emma now, like we've still never met, you know, face to face, which is definitely on the cards, but there's a real understanding. There's humor in our conversations on Instagram. There's me going, I'm going to repost something on LinkedIn because I just want to hero this woman.
Yeah.
And, you know, like to me, it transcends doing business. This is I value you. I value what you're about. And let's help each other, you know, through life a little bit. You know, that to me is the next wave of influencer marketing, you know.
I love it. I think that's a really beautiful way to see it. And I think brands do get really hooked up on how they should be using it. But actually, if they look at the way that it's really just extending your community. And one of the things we talked about prior, and I do want to bring this up, is one of the reasons it worked with Emma, and you know, and even with my little TikTok that I did on my account, and I know you got some sales from that, and I'm really pleased you did, because I really love the product. Is mine was like and we were talking about this before. The trick with this is to find communities within communities. So there's 40 plus women. I'm 50, so I'm 50 plus. But then I have
Never have thought that.
Oh, well, that's really nice. It's the oil.
Sell it for me, baby. Sell it for me.
Exactly. But one of the things is I've got this like weight loss account, and I know that lots of us women have got this thing where we kind of get this awful crepey neck after we lose lots of weight. And
very
so I'm talking specifically just to that. And there's all the people going, I need that. Boom, 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 boom. And it's the same with Emma. Like, even though I was influenced by her, really for her, the big influence is that she's got a whole lot of other people who are going through a cancer struggle and wanting to make their skin feel good. The chemo is really destroying it. And that's a seam. And I think that's finding those seams of communities, really engaged communities within communities, that's the secret.
It is. Yeah. And I think if you sort of, you know, think about the benefits of that way of thinking for broader business world, I think, you know, we talked about sacrifice to gain focus at the start, and you know, the niche within the niche, because even if you think about running a Facebook ad campaign, if you don't know your niche within your niche pain point, then you can't ever hope to craft a headline or a creative image that's going to make someone stop scrolling. Like, I don't think half of sort of SME New Zealand really truly understands the level of clutter and apathy that exists within a digital environment. And that actually just comes back to that niche. It comes back to, you know, let's do away with this, and it feels awkward, and I feel like I should be bringing all of these extra audiences in. No, go after your niche, and you'll have an, you know, whatever 80% chance of actually owning it. So,
because when someone feels like the ad is talking directly to them, that only works when you niche down.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And look, I, even as a marketer of 17 plus years, I had to kind of learn that again. You know, I thought I had
your own business. I find it harder with my own business than I do with doing it. It's very easy to tell other people how to do it.
It is,
yeah, much easier. My marketing, it's the worst. I will tell you, that's the other reason my marketing TikTok is a total failure, because I have changed my niche on there about 17 million times, my little target niche, because like that's the other thing too, though, and I think this is so important. All the other platforms are copying TikTok's algorithm, and TikTok's algorithm is amazing, because if you stick to your little niche, They push your content out so far, you know,
Right.
but the minute you move out of your niche, they don't know how to cope with it.
And penalized.
Yeah. And so that, and the problem, and so we'll go, oh, that's just TikTok. But Instagram and Facebook are spending millions studying that algorithm. LinkedIn's learning from it. And so if we don't learn it, it will really, really, really hurt us.
It really is. And look, you know, I guess I always had people doing that detailed sort of ads management for me.
That's a hard thing when you've been
it was really like drink your own Kool-Aid, woman, because here we go, we're going to be doing this ourselves for a while. And I have, and I'm really like, you know, back patting every day.
You should totally be patting your back on it. It's great.
I'm so techno. But yeah, the whole it's a big, and like it or hate it, it's a big acquisition machine that you do need to respect.
Yes.
You know, it is something that you are leveraging to connect with communities and sell products. So you need to respect the machine. You can't thumb your finger to it. You can't.
Yes, that's so true.
Decide that you know better in terms of targeting.
I did that for quite a while. Yep.
I know, we all did, right?
Yeah.
Especially in our 40 plus generation.
I know better. I'm going to tell that Facebook exactly how they should
pay Mark Zuckerberg more money. No way. You know? But, you know, it's actually quite an amazing machine once you learn how to kind of flow, you know, through it.
It is. It really is.
So I've learned a lot,
Now, I'm going to get you to tell me really soon how everyone can buy your amazing oil, because I do think it is really awesome. But before we do that, gosh, my brain totally went there. I was going to, do you do email marketing? You do email marketing, don't you?
Yes. Yeah. I've got a really cool, again, sort of work with a girl who's smarter than me to set it up, but all of the content and the language is all me because I want it to sound very
important.
fiction. Yeah. So definitely email marketing. We've got I guess that the whole point with the startup is you know, you've got to invest in marketing at the front end to bring people in. Then you get a chance, and I'm not quite there yet, but you get a chance to then build the business based on toll-free marketing, which is essentially email. So, you know, people that love the product, you know, getting them to repeat buy, to buy more, to buy the next new product that you're releasing, to get on a subscription. So all of that good sort of stuff becomes, you know, growth without having to spend so much at the awareness front end. Yeah, so very important. Did I answer your question then? I feel like I just went on
No, you totally did. It was fantastic. Thank you. It's okay because I had this thing on it, but it's okay. I can obviously I forgot what it was. I've done pretty well. I thought my brain was going to come out about halfway through, and I've been so engaged. This has been so good. So if people want to get hold of your conviction oil, or some of your other products that grow, where do they come? And also, you have an email list, on your website, because I'm just going to say my major bugbear at the moment is because you get ads through. That's one of the things I really liked is you do have an email list with a little discount. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So basically, if you head to the website, which is www.conviction.co.nz, you pretty much get hit with the little pop-up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then if you put your details in there, then it will give you the code for $15 off any first purchase. So then you'll go into our list and we update you on any sort of deals or events, or I often write a blog and give advice. And we're also releasing a cleanser shortly.
Oh, so exciting.
Know about that. I know, I'm very excited. Can't go faster. So yeah,
I'll hold off and buy my other ones. I've got one at the moment, so I'll hold off when I run out of that.
Do that. Hopefully like a couple of months away. So
perfect. Because one of the things I actually wanted to put a post in a Facebook group to rant about this, because there's been a few times in the last month or so where I've seen a great ad for clothes on Shopaholic or something else, and I've jumped on and they don't have an email to subscribe to, and I'm like, I'm not going to buy the first time I come to this website. And it's just it's such a basic thing. Like and then people say, I don't like the pop-up. Look, I'm telling you, if that person's engaged, pop-ups work really, really well.
I was that person.
Yes.
I was that person who set up a Shopify website and went, I am not going to annoy my visitors by having a pop-up. And then I did this sort of e-commerce intensive training, and he was like, do the pop-up. And when I see in Klaver that I use for the back end, the amount of, you're not going to get everyone.
No, but you get a lot. You get a lot.
People are going to bounce, but you also get very engaged people.
Yes, you do.
You're building a database of engaged people. So
it's very good.
I would absolutely recommend it. Just don't make it hard for them. Don't do it as in like you've got to wait for your email to get the code or anything like that.
It's just easy. Yeah.
Make it easy. Yeah.
So tell me, what's the website address we've got to come and get your conviction products from?
So it's just conviction.co.nz. So very simple.
And you can get it for New Zealand and Australia?
Yes, well, I'm actually shipping worldwide now.
Worldwide, okay. We do have some listeners in other places, so that's really awesome. So I'm just going to say, highly recommend it. A++ would buy again. So definitely get it. I promise you guys, this wasn't like a planned hour-long ad for conviction, but I do think I wanted to talk to you because I love the way that you told the story and all those other things. But I
feel very privileged to have come on. I feel very special today. I feel very important.
It's a highlight of both of our days. I'll probably go and have a nap now. So
absolutely. And look, I followed you on LinkedIn for so long, and I have to say that you're one of those cut through people for me. You're like the French, I think it's your language, and you're very honest, and people are a bit shrouded in corporate BS on LinkedIn. And so I'm like, there's Rachel, look at her.
That is so nice to hear. Thank you. You've definitely earned a book now. So get one sent.
Please. I would love that.
That'd be awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I will be I'll do a little bit in the outro for those of you who are listening, just around a few pointers that have come up through here that you can think about for your own business. And otherwise, thanks for listening. And Gemma, thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Lovely.
I want to talk a little bit about one of the things that Gemma has noticed, and we talked about in the podcast because it relates to every single business that's trying to use content marketing at the moment. I have really discovered this, especially through the TikTok account I've got, as I mentioned, around my weight loss, which I put in this podcast. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about was understanding that there are already engaged communities for us on the internet. And this is not an idea that's new. Seth Godin talks about this in his book Tribes. But I've really, really understood it from a very practical point as I've started to tap into some of these engaged communities. Sometimes our content can be amazing, but we still don't see the growth that we actually deserve. And it's not because the content has a problem. It's just that we're not targeting it or directing it at an engaged community that's already really active and wanting to communicate with us and engage with us. So if you know that your content is great, then maybe it's just that you have to find those seams of deep engagement and target your content a little bit better into those groups. It's why people sometimes go, hey, I'm only going to work with women business owners, because they know that that's an easier sell. I know for me, I've not wanted to do that, but I also know that doing that makes it much easier to sell products. So we have to sometimes make choices, but sometimes there are seams of communities that are easier to go for. So have a think about that for your own business. And if you know it's not that, if you know it's not the content, it's not the direction that's going in, it is the content, I'd love to help you. Obviously, you can start with buying the book, Be a Spider, Build a Web. That's a really easy way to do that. Come and be part of our Facebook group, Map It Marketing. And if you want some help and support, you're always welcome to message me and ask for a time for us to work together, either one-on-one or with my group program, the Content Master Web. Our next intake isn't until the beginning of March next year, so you've got plenty of time to get your head around it. Right, that's me for this week. And next week, it's just me talking to you and teaching you. Until then, have a great week, and thank you for listening in. If you love what you heard today, be sure to hit subscribe. And if you loved this episode in particular, I'd love it if you shared it on social media. Remember to tag me in so I can say thank you. Have a great week, and we'll talk soon.